Hello, humans. Welcome to the M Word podcast, brought to you by Martin. That's me.
And Matt.
That's him. Hello, Matthew.
Martin.
Matty. Or Jay Gyllenhaal, as I called you earlier. And John, thanks for joining us.
Hello, yeah.
We're going to talk boxing in a moment, but I just want to give a shout out to some, just to, again, maybe new listeners, just to go have a look through our back catalogue. I just wanted to bring up a few episodes that are in there. There's one of our very early episodes we did with Tom Gandy, the golfer, which is a bit of background to golf and how the hell you play that game and all the intricacies of that game. Sam Murphy, since we spoke to him months and months ago now, gym owner, world record holder now. That's a good podcast, very interesting podcast with Sam. Oren Smith, local runner, very good runner, very interesting background in Buddhism, travelling to Thailand. I think that's about 2.5 hours, that podcast, but it covered so much. Something we didn't mention last week, Mr. Varley, since we did a podcast with him 9 months ago now, since run a few marathons and now an MBE, which is just unbelievable. And then off the sports theme, we've done a couple of podcasts, one on cybersecurity. If you ever want to hack the dark net, you can go and have a listen to that one. And Steve Parrish, the MotoGP commentator, former truck rider. Again, a really fascinating story with him just before Christmas. So they're all on our social media channels and iTunes and all those places. So yeah, please feel free to go back and have a look. So guys, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Cheers. Right, set the scene then. Just some questions. Uppercut or haymaker? You go first, shall we? What do you prefer, mate?
Haymaker. No. Jab, best punch in boxing.
Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury.
That's a hard one, isn't it? Mike Tyson, probably.
Why's your answers to them? Why's your respective answers?
Well, they're not, I wouldn't pick them as the two favourite boxers.
No, it's just two Tysons.
Tyson Fury, 6'9", proper heavyweight. Obviously, with the Deontay Wilder thing, coming back from depression, I think that's a battle on its own right. And then becoming the world champion for a second time. And he's just a likeable character when he's singing in the ring and everything else he brings to the boxing game.
So I'd say Mike Tyson for the opposite. He wasn't a big heavyweight. But he brought a breath of fresh air to heavyweight boxing at the time. Probably after Ali, he was looking for a big star in heavyweight. And he was a breath of fresh air when he hit the scene. If you just take his boxing into account.
We're recording this mid-February, and I think it was only a few days ago, it's just come back to me. I think it's the 30-year anniversary of when Buster Douglas knocked him out.
Yeah.
And I think there's a documentary out, somebody was saying, I don't know if you've seen it, is it called 42-1? Which were the odds of Buster beating Mike.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but it's supposed to be a really good documentary. Rocky or $1 Million Baby, if you've seen either. Wow. Well, you're getting out of this room if you haven't seen Rocky.
Right. I got Rocky.
$1 Million Baby.
I've not seen $1 Million Baby, actually.
Yeah, Rocky is one of the worst things for me. The gyms used to be chocker. Every time we'd have a Rocky film on in the 80s, the gym on Monday, you couldn't leave. Oh.
John, we're going to fall out very quickly.
Rocky, mate.
So training, prefer go for a run or strength and conditioning?
Strength. Easy one.
I could answer that for him.
Does any boxer like running?
I don't know why you'd like runners.
Right. We'll get Oren Smith on, ask Oren.
You got a bit of a mentalist.
Right. Kozak used to do a lot of running. I've just remember seeing a lot of footage of him doing running.
Everyone's got to run.
You've got to run. Yeah. You like or not, you've got to run.
Right. Kind of distances do you run as a boxer?
It varies. It can be sort of sprints. If you come to a fight, you'd be doing short sprints. It's sort of like explosive work. Further down, and when you're just starting your camp, maybe it'd be your longer runs, and it'd be maybe split up in between sprinting, jogging.
What's a long run?
I would say 5 to 10k.
Right.
And then also you've got your hill runs, which I would say my worst.
Depends where you are in your program. The running program is the same as your training program. Your runs are spread out over your program, so you can start with the hard ones and so your steady state runs, right through. So, and then do your sprints and interval work.
Hills, you'll be all in Liverpool. they're well known in Liverpool called the Everton Hills.
Right.
I think there's about 7 or 8, and it's just a long road, but they just stop at every point, which is a hill.
Oh, okay.
And they are really well known in Liverpool, and they are just
hell on earth.
I do them at 6 in in a camp.
Right.
And you can't go to sleep the night before because I can't because I'm thinking of them ahead and it puts me off going to sleep.
Right.
The hell outside our gym's not too bad either.
Strength and conditioning it is then. And then best fighter ever.
Yeah. So the best fighter, my favourite fighter. My favourite fighter is a guy called Alexis Aguero.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just like his style and everything. I don't say he was the greatest ever. I think he probably Sugar Ray Robinson a little bit before my time, but because everything that the guys are doing now, he's already done it 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So they haven't invented anything new.
And is Mayweather crapping on his legacy with what he's doing now?
He's just making money, isn't he? Anything money, his name.
Do you think it's ruining his legacy? Or tainting it?
It's hard to say. I mean, if you put yourself in their shoes and someone said to you, do you want to fight a YouTuber for 30 million or whatever, you're not going to say no.
Would you if you had 200 million already?
Well, fair point. Yeah, that's 2 million to answer the question. But.
Yeah. So moving on to facts, and Sugar Ray Robinson, I was reading a fact earlier that he dreamt about killing someone, his next fight, killing someone, pulled out the fight, and then he was talked around by a priest to do the fight, and then went and did the fight, and he killed the guy. Did you know that about him?
Yeah, I knew that. I don't know about the premonition. I knew that there'd been a fatality in one of his fights.
Yeah. Do you know the fastest fight ever? I presume it's pro ranks.
No, probably.
Or time, guess a time.
I've seen in amateurs one punch.
Right.
I've seen one punch in the amateurs, but we've actually had one.
I've seen that in Jacks as well.
Steve, top boxes though. A guy from up this way, Steve McGraw, he went out, I think he threw a jab and landed and threw right hand, bang, gone.
Right.
It's got to be under 10 seconds. So.
Yeah.
I went out the clue.
Yeah, it was 4. Well, again, it's Google, so I'll take it with a pinch of salt with 4 seconds. Yeah, I can't remember the fighters.
No, you don't really well.
No. I don't think it was any world thing. Yeah. Well, certainly not the guy on the floor anyway. And then the other fact I was reading about in the corner, he was saying that, and I'm sure you'll know, John, all those sorts that we're saying, is to keep your hands when you rest and hands down here, not on the ropes. Yeah. Is that common?
There's blood circulation.
Yeah. Is that common?
There's different guys who've got different things where you open your legs and don't have your knees bent.
Oh, right.
Your hands on there.
Okay.
And so I like to sit down and if they're going to sit, in the amateurs, a lot of guys stand up.
Right, okay. Why is that?
Yeah, because they stand up in the gym. They don't sit down in the gym. And some guys have got a lot of nervous energy. And I think and it's only 2-minute rounds in the amateurs, 2 and 3 minute rounds. So it's a bit of a sprint rather than a marathon, as the pro ranks is. So I think some guys prefer.
Maybe sometimes psych out the opposition as well.
Yeah, and it just depends on that. But what you find with some of the amateurs, they don't want a stool until they do want a stool. Like they do the first 2 rounds, great, they don't want a stool, then the last round, give me a stool. It's always there if you're there, but it's funny. So
I've come back in an amateur fight before. It's the last round, and I've come back and I'm tired, and I'm getting ready to go on the last round. But while John's speaking to me and giving me instructions, I've seen, around John, and I've seen the other kid stood up, and I've been thinking, how the hell is he up on his feet already?
Oh, right.
I'm about to go for another 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
And my answer would be, probably hasn't worked hard enough.
Oh, right.
Because I would say Mathew in the amateurs days, he was a very quick starter. First 2 rounds, 9 times out of 10, he'd nail it in the first 2 rounds. Some guys like that, some late starters, second round, third round.
Yeah.
You can't beat a good start, can you?
Yeah, no.
Get a lead on your opponents. They're chasing. So.
And do you think, I saw something this morning, actually, it must have been a fight on last night, you complaining about the judges. Is that something, as someone who's now progressing on his boxing career, that always worries you that one day you just won't get that?
It's always been a big part of boxing, in amateur and professional. But like last night, the fight you're talking about, I think the scorecards were 118, 111, and I was watching that fight, and I had the opposite way round. Not the same scores either, around the other fella who lost the fight.
Yeah, all right.
And I think a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook and over social media had near enough the same.
Yeah.
But the bad thing is, in amateur boxing especially, it can sort of kill a kid's dreams in a way where I've had it loads of times. You've gone out and you've boxed perfectly. In your head, you feel like you dominated every round, and then you've went and got beat on a split or whatever will be. And then sometimes a lot of boxers, we can take the gloves off and go back to the changing rooms and they're thinking, what's the point?
Yeah. That's what I mean. It must play on the mind.
Three judges are sat there and they're just going to give it to the other lad.
Yeah.
But you've had many bad decisions, but in amateur, I would tell other amateurs to forget about the sort of result and just gain as much experience as you can. Obviously, when you're in the tournaments, it can be horrible to take.
Yeah.
But if it's just a normal club shows and just a normal fight, I just take it on the gym and move to the next one and just focus on the experience.
Judging then, will judges judge differently? So a judge might naturally like a more offensive boxer and therefore judge differently when two boxers are coming together.
Obviously, you've got the criteria to
right. So there is a general criteria.
Yeah, there is a criteria, but then there's always a sort of perception what your perception of the fight is and what you deem as skillful and whatever. So it's always going to be there. And they've tried different things, bringing the computers in and different schooling systems, and we're still getting there.
I think it seems to be less or more rare that you see bad decisions, as you call them.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But what Mathew just said there, you've got to become resilient. If you want to stay in the sport, and he's true, a lot of kids just say, it's not worth it. But if you can get over it, what I try to do as a coach, I try to concentrate on the performance rather than the outcome. Yeah. And so, we're within 12, 13-year-old schoolboy boxing on a club show. We're looking at where you're going to be in 6 months, a year, 2 years.
It's quite hard to convince kids at that age.
It is
about net right now, is it?
Yeah,
it's about
obviously, and I think in the modern world, everyone wants everything's instant, and we get it from what we want when we want it. So, but if you can get over that, if you can get over like Matthew's, we know we just walk away and say, listen, I've been in the game since I was 10, 11 years of age, and a lot of guys, a lot of experienced coaches been in the game all the time. We can't explain it, it just happens, and we just got to get on with it.
Well, let's pick up that point and start in the game. So when did you first get into boxing?
I remember when I was about 10, 11, group of lads went to the gym. And
in the UK?
In the UK, so I'm born in the Wirral, born in Wallasey, and I lived on the Wirral, and then I drifted in a lot. I was a little sport. I'd done a bit of swimming, football, wasn't great at anything really. I always drifted back to the boxing, and then I left when I was 21.
Was that a popular sport in the area at the time, or was it just?
I'm 60 in May, so we're talking about early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and I think in my area, my council estate, football and boxing were the big ones. There's a lot of other sports now, but when I was a kid, it was a lot of boxing clubs and football. So
was it seen as a potentially also a way out of? So I presume it was a fairly deprived area at the time.
Yeah, I would say so, and it's not an expensive, neither an expensive sport to get into. Boxing isn't, and neither is. You don't know a lot of money to get into it, so I think that's probably a working class background. So.
And other family members, were they boxers previous? No.
Right. I was like I say, group of mates went, and it was like I followed along with them and just tagged along and liked it. But drifted in and out for a few years, and then I went to come back when in my late teens, early 20s. I went to Jersey then, and then I boxed in Jersey, and I think that my experiences in Jersey have helped me with my experiences in Ireland, because there's a lot of parallels that have been in Ireland and the structure and that they've got in their boxing. So when I came to the island, I think it helped me sort of work with
what took you to Jersey?
My dad lived there.
Right.
My dad was a pub landlord. We moved around a little bit. So mum and dad had split up, and my dad was living in Jersey. Just a break, get away from Merseyside. And I was, I was getting in a bit of trouble. I was 19, 20. I was,
What were you doing for a living?
So plasterer. So I work on building sites and plastering. So
What weight did you fight at?
So I was light heavy, but I moved up quickly. So once I got to me late teens, I moved up to heavyweight. But to be truthful, I wasn't. I wasn't muscle. I won the greatest boxer, but I enjoyed it while I was in it.
What weight? So for the non-boxers, stone and what's the other word? Pounds. Yeah. What or kgs? What weight is that?
So I would have been about 14 and a half stone.
Right.
About 192 kilos.
Right.
And it's not a big heavyweight.
Right.
So not, you're talking like 16, 17 stone. You talk Anthony Joshua, 16 and a half stone,
right.
6'5", 6'6". So we never had cruiserweight at that time, so I was probably a cruiserweight.
Okay.
Naturally.
So cruiserweight's the next weight down.
Yeah, so in the pros and even in the amateurs, they brought 85 kilos in, which is cruiserweight. Right. So I probably would have fitted in. I couldn't get back down to light heavy.
Right.
Which was...
So it's light heavy below cruiser?
81 kilos, light heavyweight.
How many kilos?
81.
81, right. Okay.
And then you got 91. So it's a big jump.
Yeah.
It's 91's heavyweight, and super heavyweight is over 91.
Oh, right. Okay. So super heavyweight just in the amateurs, having not... Yeah, because I've not heard that in the pro ranks.
Yeah, so heavyweight. Yeah, but you've got in the pro ranks, you've got cruiserweight. Right. Which is the 90 or kilo lads who probably get into the cruiserweight division in the pros.
Right. So you're fighting at what division at the moment, mate?
I fight at super lightweight.
Right, okay. So
140 pounds, which is about 64 kilos.
Right, okay.
So no money, that would be light welter.
Oh, right, okay.
Change the names, haven't you?
Yeah, they've changed them quite a lot, to be honest.
Right. What height are you?
I'm 5'11".
Oh, Jesus, and 64 kilos.
Yeah.
Don't eat a lot now.
No, you have to trim down. I walk around about, when I'm not fighting, I'll be walking around at 70 kilos.
Right.
So I've always got that 6 kilos to lose pretty much.
And that's coming off through training camp.
Yeah, so I usually lose. Like obviously I've done it a few times now, so I know my body, and I usually lose 2 kilos with just training.
Okay.
A kilo and a half with just training, forgetting about food. And then I think diet, if you speak to a lot of athletes, they'll always say diet is your main thing. And if you can get your diet right, you're halfway there pretty much. So I started to bring my food in then and get a dietitian on it and what I'm eating and when I'm eating. And obviously you want to be eating enough to still have energy for your camp. And I'll probably drop another kilo and a half there. So I'll probably get to about 66 kilos or around that with my diet and training. And then after that, it's kind of a bit of water, like you'll be drinking, doing the water, the cup, maybe steam rooms, them type of things. You do kind of have to trim yourself down. But so far, as a professional, I haven't had to do that because my fights have all been the same day weigh-in. So I weigh in at 5 p.m. and fight at 9 p.m.
Oh, right, okay.
So because I've only got a 4-hour recovery bit, I won't go down to 140 pounds. I'll go like 144, 145 pounds. Okay. Which is allowed because it's the same day weigh-in. So your opponent.
So they give you a bit of respect.
So you're not like, if I was coming at 140 and I'm in a sauna the night before and stuff, I'd be dehydrated. It'd be dangerous. Right. Especially going to taking hits, blows to the head and stuff. So that's why at the minute I'm coming 144, 145 pounds. But as soon as I do step up and I'm doing 8 rounds and 10 rounds and the fights maybe for a title or whatever, I will have a day before weigh-in. So I'll weigh in on a Friday and box the Saturday. And I'll weigh in probably 1 p.m. on the Friday. Right. So I've got the rest of that day, the rest of the Friday, and all day Saturday to sort of rehydrate and recover. So that's when you can sort of not burn yourself out, but trim down a little bit more.
Why that time difference between sort of the shorter round fights and the longer fights? Why weigh in early?
It's only because I'm on a small hall show, so I'm with VIP promotions. Okay. And they're a small hall promotion, so it's like your venues where you get 1,000 to 3,000 people in. But sooner if I was with say BT or Sky with the match room of Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren, I would constantly have the day before weigh-in. Yeah, okay. It's just because I think as a promoter, it costs a bit more. Yeah, for the venue longer, blah, blah, blah. And so you've got to put your boxes in hotels the night before and stuff. So for a small promoter, that's why they do it the same day. Right, okay. So hopefully in the future when I'm ranking up and I'm getting bigger fights.
And do you find food and nutrition, do you find it a struggle as you strip down?
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to anyone. I mean, John knows yourself, I could sit there and eat burgers and chips and all the wrong food, but it's just at the end of the day, I've chose to do this, so I can't complain. It's got to be done. But as I've got older as well, and I'm learning more, and I'm speaking to different dietitians and nutritionists and stuff, it isn't too bad. You can still have you can still have your treats, and you can have good food and stuff.
Just a balance, I guess.
It's just balancing out, and it's the right moment. Like as we're developing with like sports science and all these nutritionists and that, everything's picking up and that, and they know what they're doing, sort of thing. But no matter what weight you are, usually you're always gonna have to not kill yourself. You're gonna have to trim down. You're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of stuff. And the food, one of them. That's how it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's Ricky Hatton always gets names thrown in because he was one post-fight would balloon and go again. Is that something you try? Appreciate you're not going to balloon, especially at 22. But
there's a boxer called Andre Ward.
Yeah.
And he's retired now. He was a very good boxer. And he said that you never want to go over, I think it was 8-10 pounds or something, over your weight.
Right.
Like your fighting weight, that is. You always want to stay around your fighting weight when you're walking around and stuff. And it's just because it'll pay off after a while. I mean, look at Ricky Hatton. He was a great, obviously, unbelievable boxer and stuff, but he'd be in the pub. He'd fight on the Saturday, he'd be in the pub Monday night, and he'd be drinking and stuff. And as it got on,
it takes its toll.
And you look at someone like Mathew, for example, as far as I'm aware, I don't think he touched really alcohol through his whole career. And that's why he stayed in such good shape, and that's why he's been on his A game his whole career.
He's I use it claim to fame, not that I met him, but I was in Vegas watching, what did I go there? It's up there, Canelo Golovkin, the first fight. And he was in Vegas at the time.
Who's this, Mayweather?
Mayweather was, He was wandering around. We were in Caesar's Palace, and he's tiny. Just because you see him on TV, don't you? And obviously he's ripped to hell. I mean, I'd flog him, but he's ripped to hell. But then he got a couple of guys around him, which probably doesn't help because they're massive bouncers. But he was tiny.
5'7", I think he is.
Right.
They go back.
Well, I say tiny, but what you see on TV, you obviously expect this.
Go back to the Ricky Hatton scenario, and I think Ricky was the first one to admit that what he done wasn't right. And he's got a young son now. He's just saying proud of him, so he'll advise him. And I think Ricky's the first one to tell you that that wasn't the right thing to do, but it is what it is. Back in the day, Roberto Duran was another one. A great fighter, moved up in the weights from lightweight up to light heavy, I think. And he was notorious for out of training habits.
Right.
So we say. So but I would say Matthew's not a big drinker, and he's not like that. So it's like you say, we all like our cakes and our treats. I got all the good stuff in life, so not good for you.
Yeah. So, where was Duran from?
Duran was Panama.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hand of Stone or something.
That was his nickname. I haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, it's a really good movie, actually. So, Matt, you getting into boxing? What got you into boxing?
My older brother done it first.
Right.
He must have done it for about a year, 6 months to a year, I'd say. And I was, I think, 8. And I was speaking to my dad. I was always doing a little bit of padding with my dad in the living room, but I always used to try to get into the boxing gym. And I think my dad ended up speaking to John and Peter at the time. And I think they both said I was a little bit too young. But I did go down, and I think they said, well, try him out, come down and have a little go. So I went down, had done it, and then I think they turned around to my dad and they said, leave it another year, come back when he's had a year or whatever, and he'll be a bit older then. So then I'd come down the next week and I'd change my name.
Oh, really?
So I think I'd come down about 5 times and kept changing my name. And I think they realised...
False glasses on.
Yeah, they realised I weren't...
Yeah, it wasn't going away.
And then they just kept me on. I think by the time I was 9 or 10, I was into it, I was doing well, and you could sort of probably tell he's going to be a decent little fighter.
What drew you into boxing then?
I know that
what made you want to keep coming
wasn't
back?
ever to the point where I watched boxing and thought I want to be boxing. It was literally just because my older brother done it, and I just wanted to follow his footsteps.
Did your old man box or anything?
No, he done karate.
Right.
It was because when my dad was young, Bruce Lee was the big thing at the time. So I couldn't done karate at the time, according to him anyway. But he never my dad never forced us ever to do anything.
No,
It was
just supportive.
go try whatever you want to do, and if you like it, keep doing it. And like you said, he'll just support you doing it. And I think I must have been asking for a fight for about 3 years because you're not allowed to box till you. Well, I think they've changed now. I think it's.
It was 11. It was 11 then.
11 at the time. It's 10 now.
Right.
So obviously, I've been in the gym since I was 8. I've on John and Peter's back every single day saying, "Got me a fight, got me a fight."
Yeah, so we've got a restriction in the club because the club's only certain size. We can't have gangs of kids, and we got 9 age start up on our gym.
Right.
So at age 9, I think Peter's just started a younger, he's a little younger. I'm doing on a different session, but we've got and you imagine if you started playing football at 9, we couldn't play a game till you're 11.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what kids are like, they're really interested. So we know that. So, and also there's a lot to boxing that you don't realise, technical and it's quite a tough sport. So I think the 9 to start off is good. I think maybe the little rocky classes for the 6, they're only going around messing around. But Mathew is one of them. I think you got to make exceptions to the rule. Every now and then you get one, and like you say, he wouldn't go. He's always there. He's just turning up, and he would even slip in and come to his mum would come and pick Edward up, and he'd be there, and he'd slip in and have a lot go. And you could see he was natural.
And those fights at that first fight at that age, 10, did you say it is now?
11, he would have been
11, yeah. Is that obviously it's gloved? I assume.
Yeah,
head guard. So how does it work?
So usually the kids glove is called
a skills bout. There's a bout in amateur boxing called skills bout, where the coaches come to an agreement, just a skills bout. There's no decision, there's no winner, no loser.
Okay.
10-year-old, 11-year-old kids. And if you want to try and build them in, before throwing them in a deep end, they've got a crowd. His first show would have been at the Palace.
Right.
Yeah. So we would have been at the Palace at a dinner show with 200 people.
Right.
So it can be quite intimidating to some.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember well. Because we wanted the skills bout.
Yeah, I was going to go for a skills bout, but the other coach didn't want it. And to be true, we knew he was ready to go anyway. I just wanted to test the water, and it's no hard. He's only 10, 11. Let's have a skill bout. But the other coach said, no, I don't want it. I want a bout. So it was okay, we have a bout.
So what's a skills bout then?
So it's 3 rounds, 1 minute
each
round. And usually the first round would be a jab only.
Oh, okay.
The second round would be, I think, a jab and a backhand. And I think third round is all out.
What's a backhand?
Right hand, sorry.
Jab and
your power hand sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
So it's controlled.
Yeah.
And there's no decision. So there's no winner, no loser.
Yeah.
For kids. And it's an experience rather than any lot more for the outcome. So, but they didn't want it, so they wanted to fight.
It was actually Amir Khan's nephew.
Oh, right, okay.
Haroon Khan, his name was. I've actually still got my Facebook.
Right.
And they were coming out, they were from Blackburn. It was Isle Man face, I think it was North West, weren't it? And they wanted the real bout, and John wanted the skills bout. And they were like, no, I think he only had 2 fights, that's why. So we were like, no, we're having a real fight. So we ended up dead. And I think I stopped them in the second round.
Right.
But I'll have to tell the story, I can't not leave it out. He had his whole family there, all the cameras and that, and this dude was they all thought they were beating me. And I come out with my first fight, they all thought I was probably going to be nervous for my first fight. And then the first round, they had all the cameras out. First round, all the cameras were put away. And I think his coach is the ref as well.
He was a ref, yeah.
And he had to pull his own kid out.
Oh, right.
So, that's my little story.
And do you remember the feeling before going out? I mean, was he nervous or?
So as I got older, I got more nervous for fights.
Right.
But when I was little, it didn't you don't I don't know how to describe it. You just going into box or you're going to play football, and it wasn't like I could get hurt here or I could win. I might lose here, and everyone might think I'm not a good boxer. And that didn't, all them things, all them thoughts didn't come as I got older. When I was young, I just go out there and I'd be walking out, giving people winks and that.
I know, well, in pro boxing, you can use different size gloves. At kid level, it's just set. You wear
amateurs are set times gloves for for under 64 kilos, is it?
Yeah.
Under 64 kilos, 10 ounce, and above it's 12 ounce.
And you get your hand wrapped for that as well?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So it's the full experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So how does that progress then through those age brackets? Is you just fighting and you got to continue to fight people within 1 calendar year of your...
Yeah, and 2 kilos in weight.
Oh, right, okay, right.
Yeah, so you try, it's that as your coach then, try and match you accordingly with people in your area and then outside your area.
I think my first fight was 37 kilos.
Right.
And did you find that you're doing a lot of fights locally, or do you try?
Oh, most of the way. You'd be lucky to get, I'd say, 3 home fights.
Yeah, you like put about 2 or 3 shows on the Isle of Man a year. So you would get most of your contests. I think one year you had 13, did you? 13?
Yeah, well, the thing, with being over here, you sort of, when you're in a tournament, obviously you want to be getting your 4 or 5 fights in tournaments, because you go get beat straight away, you just go getting sent straight home pretty much, or you're there for the rest of the days until the tournament's over. So that's where I mainly got all my fights in, was the tournament, to keep going all the way to the end of the tournament pretty much.
Right. Just to go back then, you mentioned earlier about coming to the Isle of Man, Jersey, and then moved to the Isle of Man. You start to get back into boxing then, because you kind of moved away from the sport.
Yeah. So when I come down, I had 3 kids, all in the age of 5. So your hands are full, aren't they? And I go down the gym doing a little bit, because it's one great thing about the sport. I've worked all over England and different places, and if I want to go and get fit, I just go to a boxing gym. You go on the bags, no one has to bother me, go on the skipping rope bags. The same as you've got it, you just go and do it. So I started doing that a little bit, and then down at Manx ABC, they were just starting up again. They'd had a period where they'd been closed down, and they hadn't any registered coaches, and I sort of just gravitated towards that, helping out. And then you say, I always had a little bit of wouldn't probably admit it, but I probably had a little in me that I would like to have a go coaching.
Yeah, right, okay, all right, okay.
Want to be too cocky.
Did your kids box at all?
So my oldest lad, he boxed. So he'd be the same age as Danny Roberts.
Right.
So him and Danny Roberts probably came through together.
Right, okay.
And we've got a picture of them on one show, and it was just them 2 on.
Oh, right, okay.
We had quite a few pullouts on the home show, and they were the only 2 Manx boxers. We ended up getting 8-9 bouts that night, but bringing people in from England.
Yeah, right.
We got quite a few pullouts, and there was just them 2 on, the 2 Dannys, Danny Roberts and Daniel. So and then he's gone into football and drifted away a little bit as he got older. Yeah. He competed when he was younger.
And your development as a coach then, was that just something you were interested in, but just continue to train more of the guys, get coaching badges, etc.?
Yeah.
And what's that pathway? How do you go through that pathway?
Yeah, so your first level is you come in as an assistant coach, level 1 coach, and then you move up to a level 2 coach after a year or 2, whatever. I think
does that involve going on courses?
Go on courses. Yeah. Normally 2 weekends. You go away 2 weekends, and then there's the level 3, which is a big step up. That's a big step up. That's a few weeks. That you're away for a week, and then you're away for 5 or 6 days doing your assessments, and then you've got your level 4, which is the highest one. That's all I've gone for that. I think it's just a matter of, I think with me, because I never boxed at that high level, that international level, when I was starting to get involved with international boxing, taking guys to Commonwealth Games, I felt that I needed to be educated a bit more, and I was willing to do it. So, and that's the best move I've made. I think the guys in the gym felt a difference of the training plans and things that I came back from my level 3. And the level 3 to level 2 to 3 is a massive jump. Right. Level 4 is hard, but it's not so big a gap, because the level 3 was a tough one.
What kind of, when you're going through those levels, I say, what are they teaching you? Is it, give some examples of... Yeah,
so with your first ones, it's like you box. When you get someone in a boxing gym, you just stick to the basics. Straight punches, move your feet, get your stance and guard. And then on the level 1, your assistant, that's what it's the basics. Mm-hmm. And then little bits about how you go about your corner work and your safety aspects and rules and regulations. So rules and regulations. And as you go up into this level 2, they'll work with more uppercuts and hooks, how to do that. And then level 3, what then it becomes in sports nutrition, physiology, and all that kind of stuff, and programming, how to set programs out, and all that kind of stuff. So weights, running programs, different modules. So it start getting into the science, and you've got to do exams, written exams. You've got to do presentations, standing up, doing bullet point presentations, that kind of stuff. So,
and I assume part of that is learning also to adapt, because obviously every fight is different, where they, from their stance to the way they like to fight, etc. So I assume it's learning all those dynamics of that situation as well, of each fighter, and being able to adapt.
I think that you say that there's all different ways that we learn. With audio, kinetically, visually.
And
you find that most of them got a little bit of both. You've got to do a visual. It means visual. I like to see.
I'm a visual as well.
So I think the responsibility as a coach for that, your visuals got to be good, haven't they? If your visuals are sloppy, they can't blame them.
No, absolutely.
So that's another thing that as you come higher into the grade, you've got to work on your own skill level. What are you teaching them? So it's a bit like that.
So one of that kind of brings around a question around, you mentioned, brings on to thinking about opponents. And one of the things, always, I do like boxing in general. You can see I'm not a fighter myself. So, but I always think it's sometimes not fully understood, the art of boxing. I think often people see non-boxers will just look at it as two guys thrashing themselves, but there's so much to it. So how much of a fight, one is pre-fight work about understanding how the opponent is, and then two, and maybe this we talked about Mayweather earlier, an observation, again, I could be completely wrong here, is that he goes into fights and he spends a couple of rounds learning a lot about what his opponent's doing, and then in the heat of the battle making those clinical decisions on how to fight. I don't know whether that's a fair comment about how he fights, but is that something you're something you learn and you're conscious that is an important part of your development?
Yeah, well, it's all experience in that, because every fight you fight is going to be different from the next one. So that all comes with time and like I say, just experience. You might never thought of Southpaw before.
So that's the stance.
Yeah, it's a total different stance. So I switch hit anyway.
Right.
But for someone who's an orthodox fighting a Southpaw for the first time, it can be very tricky, and you can be a lot of like head clashes and standing on your feet, and it can be an awkward fight. But then usually you fight 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. The next, when you get your 5th or your 6th one, you're gonna learn your mistakes from your first 3 or 2 or whatever it will be. So all that is just experience, and obviously it is work in the gym too. Thing is as well, with pros and amateurs, as a pro you do know who you're fighting, so you can spend a camp getting ready for that one specific boxer. Okay. Where in amateur, especially tournaments, you could fight a Southpaw one day, and then Wednesday you're fighting some tall orthodox who's on the back foot and doesn't want to, come and fight you, wants he's running away. And then on the Friday you're fighting some small stocky fella who's coming to fight. So in amateur it's totally different. You've got to be ready for all styles, and that again just comes with experience and in the gym too, working on different opponents that you may face in a tournament or whatever it may be.
So those foot then, so again for the non-boxers, Southpaw is left forward or which way around?
Is your right
if you're left-handed. If you're left-handed, you're Southpaw.
Right,
you lead with your right foot.
Yeah, your left hand will be at your back.
All right, you see, because I'm left-handed, my instinct will be to fight with my left at the front.
So that's your power, keep your power backward. Keep your power back.
Yeah. Right, okay. So you mentioned you're both ways. You're both. You can switch to both. I presume you have a preference.
I'm orthodox.
Right.
I started boxing. If you told me to get into my stance, I'd jump into an orthodox.
Just like you give someone a golf club.
Yeah. I think I must have been about 13 when I started switching.
Right.
Did you consciously choose that so you could fight both sides, or something you just kind of found you a natural switch?
I think I was doing shadow in the gym. I was with John and I was doing shadow, and
Yeah, so what I used to do a little drill with boxers, and I didn't put any pressure on them, but what I used to do is because like Mathew just said, you might get a southpaw in your next fight, and you don't know if you haven't got any southpaws in the gym. So what I used to do when I do a thing called partner work, where you get gloved up but they're not punching each other, they're punching gloves and that, and I'd say, well, you turn southpaw for him, and one of them turns southpaw, and then the other one turns southpaw, and what that does then, once you've done a little bit of southpaw, you understand which way they move. So when you box one, you understand what they're doing, what they're thinking. So it's a good little drill, that. And what I did, but the other thing you get from it, I didn't really stand back watching. You can see the ones who pick her up. Now I wouldn't force anyone to turn southpaw. I don't force any kids to turn southpaw, but I have had a few guys and they picked her up. So I go with it, and because it is a great, you imagine being able to, like, how many footballers has only got a left foot? Or Salah, or only got a right foot. Isn't it great? You could score with both feet. So for me, if you can do it, great. If you can't, I will just concentrate on what you can do. So it is a little drill that I do, and Matthew's one of them kids, and the gym just picked her up. And other kids didn't, and it was fine. We just didn't pursue it with him, but he did.
I thought it's a very helpful tool.
Yeah, definitely.
To throw your opponent off as well.
100%. It's just another, like you say, another tool in the box that you can use. It's another thing for them to think about.
So that studying of the opponent, like you say, now you've moved into the professional ranks. Is that something you do? I think it's 5 fights you've had. The 5, is that, would you watch footage of them in previous fights?
Yeah, I every fight I've had, I've watched back at least 2 or 3 times. Right. First time.
And would you watch them fight, presuming they've had previous fights there beforehand as well?
The annoying thing about me at the minute is you get a lot of pullouts.
Right.
So I've had opponents 3 weeks before my fight.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
I've watched them for a week or 2, and we're doing stuff on the bag and the pads that we think is going to work on the night. And then sometimes 3 days, 2 days before you fight, you've got a total different opponent. So the only thing you can do really is just watch the clip.
And what's with the pullouts there? Is that just you're a bit unlucky for people's reasons, or is it? It
could be a reason for them. Well, you don't know, maybe the ill, injury, whatever it could be, or sometimes you even get the opponents where because you get journeymen who fight in the pro game, they fight week in, week out. So sometimes they double book themselves almost, where they've pretty much whoever's going to offer them. If they've got a fight down London and a fight in Manchester, and the promoter in Manchester's giving them 1,200, but the promoter up in London's giving them 1,500, they'll probably go down to the promoter in London. So sometimes there can be a bit of that going on too, but a lot of times, every fight I've had so far in my pro game hasn't been the original opponent. It's always changed, usually the last week. Even my last fight, you get a lad from, I can't pronounce the place, Niquarian, that down South America, so I had to get an opponent from there for my last fight, because they totally, like, everyone was taken up pretty much around. Some weights as well are harder than other weights to match up. Right. So there might be middleweight, might be a dead jam-packed weight where you can find fighters every day of the week, where some weights might be a little bit harder to get you matched up.
And I suppose also part of that match is not finding someone who's...
You want to get it's all time, and you want to get the right opponent for the right time. And at the minute, I'm on a sort of, it's pretty much calling it I'm like an apprentice at the minute in the pro game. I'm just learning my trade almost. And
how frustrating is that in regards, sometimes certainly as they're coming through, you see that there's the headline fight, but they see the fights before and they interview them after, and you get the impression, the fighter's just pummeled someone else, and they're like, I want a bigger fight. It must be hard to be patient if you believe in your ability and who you are, that maybe your coach is not holding you back, but...
that's just, it's probably just having the right team about you, because you can get young kids or whoever who just want to go straight to the top, and they just want to rush it and get there as soon as possible. But a lot of people, everyone I speak to usually say it's a marathon, not a sprint. You just want to buy your time and learn as you go, learn in the ring while you're fighting and out the ring in the gym, and not even just training. It can be like we were talking about before with diet, and what works. One diet might work, and then another diet might not work, and so everything is a total experience. And you move up in the rounds too. So at the minute I've done 4 rounds. I haven't done. My last fight was meant to be a 6 rounder, but for whatever reason, it went down to a 4. But my next fight, whenever it will be, when COVID does one, it'll be a 6 rounder.
Right.
So that's another thing. You want to go 6 rounder, 8 rounder, 10 rounder, 12 rounder.
And what dictates how many rounds you do? Is
Experience,
that you choosing it, or how many fights you've done at that level to say, okay,
I mean, I could go in and say I want 2. I could have 2 4-rounders, and then I could ask for a 6 rounder, and I could have 1 6 rounder and go for 8. So that's down to you, your coach, and the team behind you.
When you're ready, I suppose. When they think you're ready to go up, and when you are, so some go quicker than others.
You don't want to hang around too long either doing the same. Like you want to only be doing 10 4-rounders, and then you move to a 6 rounder. You want to. I would personally say 4 rounders 5 times or 4 times. Then you move to your 6 rounders. And that would be the usual step up, a couple 6 rounders, then 8 rounders. And then after that, usually when you're talking about your 10 and 12, they would usually be in your title fights or aiming for a title anyway.
Yeah, right. And at the end of those fights you've done so far, do you get to the end of them and be like, F me, I've got another if I want to step up a couple of rounds?
Yeah, I've done it the last probably 2-3 fights. I've done that, but it's just one of them. It's not what you can do. I've not got any stoppages on my record yet, but every time I come out, someone always comes up to me and says, if you had another round or 2 there, you'd have got him out, which probably could have, because if you hurt someone, you hurt them in the 4th round.
Yeah.
And they've got a minute left or 2 minutes left, but they can hang on, and they're experienced lads in boxing who do this all the time, so they know how to survive. Where if they knew in the back of their head they've got another 9 minutes of this or another 6 minutes of this, we've got 2 more rounds to get through, they might take that knee, or they might go, no, I'm not doing this.
And your technique or your fighting, are you in going or stand back? Maybe describe in boxing terms, or is it a bit of whatever the opponent is?
Yeah, it's hard one to answer. I'd probably rather ask a coach what my style is, but I would say one of my biggest attributes is my quickness on my feet and my hand speed.
Right.
So usually I'd say my style is in range, out of range, be hit and not get hit.
Okay, yeah.
It's constantly being quick. But as I'm getting older as well, and in the pro game, you do need to start sitting down on your feet. And when I say that, I mean, don't be too much on your toes, really. You need to sit down and put better venom into your shots. Okay,
so on your toes, you don't have that power through, I assume?
You can, or
less so than being flat?
You can do, but if you sometimes, I wouldn't say so much flat-footed, but if you sometimes you just want to have, you're on your toes, you're in and out, and then all of a sudden, it'll be just a split second when you can really sit down and put some spike into your punches in there, and then you can still get back out of the way if you're quick enough.
Yeah. Are you patient enough as a fighter, again, do fighters go through this thought process where obviously it's nothing to do with the crowd, but it's like, I've got to knock this guy out, or do you go in the fight going, it's about just winning the fight? Not the style, but there's one thing that's important here is the result, not...
Yeah, I just concentrate, like
getting them on the
John stated before, just concentrate on getting a good performance in.
Right.
And if it does come, it does come. But I won't lie, in my last fight, I did put the gas on, and I think it was the last round, I must have threw about 30 shots in about 10 seconds, and then realised that I blew myself out.
Yeah, okay.
So I've hugged them for another 10 seconds after that. But
it's just learning experience.
Yeah, that just goes back to experience. But if you listen to a lot of boxers, they always say the knockout comes and these stoppages come when you don't expect it. So if you just go out there and focus on getting the win and focus on performance, the rest will come.
Yeah. I think another thing as well is a big thing that immaturity in boxing. He's only 22. He's come through, and he is a boxer. If you ask me for a star, when he first started, he was a little scrapper. He was a little scrapper, but we've, over the years, we've coached him and we've turned him into a boxer. I think a slick boxer, quite awkward because he can switch orthodox and southpaw, great hand speed, and good judgment of space.
Right.
Good space awareness.
Right.
Feet move nice. Just very, very natural. He moves in and out of range quite well. So I would say to that is, it's quite tricky as well because you can't predict what he's going to do next. But we're going back to about the opponents pulling out and things like that. And we get that all the time. But what you got to do, you got to concentrate on yourself.
Yeah.
Forget about who you're in front of. If you've got enough confidence in yourself and you've done everything right, and you're super fit and you've done everything right, You know, there's only so much. The videos don't show you how hard he punch.
Yeah, right.
The only videos only show you how many punches he might have thrown or whatever. And that's why Mayweather would have done the tongue work on him. And still, he's no mug, is he, Mayweather? He was sort of, I just see everyone saying he punched hard, and we don't know until you've been in there with him. So you can see that. But yeah, concentrate on yourself.
All right. And then in the ring, I guess, like, is it aware, you know, as a boxer, you're aware, you know, they've got a good left hand, for example. Is that something, again, you're going, I must keep my right constantly up? And will you see, as stupid as it sounds, but you see punches coming and be able to, that quick, you can react to stuff like that?
Yeah, you've got to, the ones you don't see are the ones that will
knock you out.
Put you down. Right. So be saying anyway, but far as in my career so far, I've always just had a whole vision. I've been taught to be able to see the corners.
Okay.
Off the ring, so you're not just you're focusing on boxer, obviously, but you're just aware of you using your
peripheral,
peripheral vision of the corners as well. So I used to do things where you say you'd be doing pads, and it was in Spain this, and he would ask a question like, "What colour is the bag?" or "Who's walking past you?" And and at the start I'd be turning my head. And then it was just a little practice.
Don't be slapping you around the other side for turning your head.
So, you see everything coming.
Yeah, right.
100%. And the ones that don't, if you're not seeing it coming, you're doing something wrong.
And ultimately, I guess that gets hard as you go through fights. That gets harder as in a fight, because the longer you're going through the fight, the tighter you get and your reactions are getting slower, I guess. And it's that alertness.
Down to your experience and push your training camp.
Yeah, right.
Making sure you're getting the good enough sparring and just keeping focused on the pads and not. I felt focus is a massive thing in boxing, and that will come with experience. And that's again with the rounds. Sometimes you might be fit enough to do an 8-rounder, but mentally you might not be in terms of staying focused 8 rounds.
Yeah.
So you could probably do 10 8 rounds easy, not even get out of breath. But it's just switching off and getting into bad habits maybe in the 7th, 8th round. You're starting to put your hands down, or you're doing something like you shouldn't be doing that you weren't doing the 4th and 3rd round. Yeah. Again, so that all comes down to experience and with the rounds.
I'd imagine, and it's something we talk about with a lot of sports people on the pod, is the mind around that. Is that something that you just have to instill in fighters over years?
It's not experience, like Mathew just said. Right. There's experience, so you're running your first marathon, you've trained, but you don't know what you're going to be like on that last 3 miles, do you?
Yeah.
And so going from 4 rounds to 6, you don't know your first 6 rounds and your first 8, you've got to take them steps off you. As long as you do your preparation and everything's right, you should be all right in your marathon.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's still there in your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you train, you're still niggling. I've never done this 10k bike ride, or I've never done this marathon before. It's still, and it's the same with the hurdles of getting through 6 and 8 and 10 rounds. But you know, if you do preparation and everything, it's going to be an experience, isn't it? And you've got to get through it.
Do you see fighters going through that cycle of struggling to perhaps deal with the...
Yeah, you probably do, but what you would say is that, and that's sometimes, like Mathew just alluded to, that some guys want it too quick and get thrown in the deep end a little bit, and they're thinking about the 10 rounds when they should have, and they've lost the first 4 because they were thinking about, so that kind of thing, because they weren't ready for it, mentally, they might have been physically ready, but they weren't mentally ready for it. And they were thinking about doing the 10 rounds and saying themselves, it's too late then, this kid's won the first 6 rounds. Right. So you've got to get going. So, but that's experience, isn't it? You've got to pace yourself, and like you might have run your marathon too quick, you first 10k too quick, and you bolted, haven't you? So it's experience, isn't it? And at Mathew's level, as he's boxing now, that's why he's not boxing for titles, he's not boxing undefeated by his boxing journey, because he's learning his trade, as you said. He's learning his trade, and he's going to move up, and when he's ready, he'll be ready. He'll be ready to box there.
So let's talk. Go on,
man. So how many fights will you do in a year? Should we say in a year span?
Normally, it would be 4. Usually, it's space like March, June, September, November. They're sort of with the promotion team that I'm with at the minute. That's sort of the show they do at the minute in the calendar year. So usually 4, but like I said, you could have 5 or 6. I've no boxers that have had 5 or 6 fights in a year that are pro, but it's just because we're with a different promotional team.
And when you see those camps that you do pre that, are they like here or away where you go specifically for us? Oh, okay.
I'm totally based in Liverpool now. Pretty much, I'm training. Obviously I come back here to see my family and so I'm more or less just constantly in Liverpool with training.
Well, camp is that when you think training camp, I'm thinking of cycling. You're often of thing.
No,
you're using it's just a term for
that's a term for a cycle of before the contest.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'd still be boxing or doing fitness outside.
Yeah, so pretty much a camp would be like 8 to 10 weeks or so.
Right. Okay.
I was when that camp's over. It's not like I just sit around doing nothing until the next camp's up. I'd still be training, still be learning in the gym, even getting that better sparring and stuff. And then, I mean, if I fought in March and then I've got a fight in June, it's not exactly a massive break anyway, because if you're doing an 8-week camp, it's 2 months anyway. So you're only going to be I usually have a week off. Yeah. And then just, eat a bit of food and chill and
burn yourself out if you do it 12 months.
You obviously need to have a little bit of a break.
Yeah, you need to recharge the batteries, don't you? And then you've got another thing, ticking over. You can stay in the gym just ticking over because you haven't got a fight, but you're just ticking over. You're still keeping that weight down a little bit and keep it in the game and obviously learn as you go.
Have you been injured through your
Touch wood,
career to this point?
Not yet. I think I had a little injury once when I was amateur.
Elbow.
Over hyperextension.
Okay.
But nothing major that's ever put me out for a long while, and hopefully it doesn't.
So let's talk a little bit then. We talked earlier about that sort of first fight as a 11-year-old. How then through your teens, how did that progress your career at those stages?
I won my first 9. Won my first 9. I think I stopped my first 4. And I think by the 9th fight, I was boxing at a high level, really. I think in my 9th fight, we had a little tournament thing over here. It was the Celtic when we got Scotland, Wales and Ireland.
Yeah, so it was a precursor to the Commonwealth Youth Games in Ireland. So what we'd organised was what did you normally do with a pre-tournament to check the venue out and we invited Scotland, Wales over. And then obviously the Isle of Man, and they brought the youth teams that they were going to bring, so it's a little bit of a recce for them. Okay. And then comes in with the hotels going to stay where they're going to be, and then we arranged some junior contests for like some Mathew and a few other boxers. So we boxed. There was probably classes in international, but it wasn't real.
So you mentioned junior. What age are you here?
I would have been 13 because Ed, my older brother, was getting ready for my older brother went into that Commonwealth Youth Games, and we were all 4 years apart. He was 17, I'd been 13. But I boxed at the time. He won the Great Britain Championships, the lad from Scotland. I boxed and I beat him. So that's when I sort of knew that I'm at a high level now. And you don't really you don't go down really. As soon as you're at that high level,
you can't match them. So I was a matchmaker. I used to do the matchmaking for all my footballs, all the Mike's ABC fights at that time, and you just can't match them. And you just got, you can't go against kids. When you got a lad at aim, I think you got to I remember looking at it there were 25 fights, and I think we had 10 national champions on the card. Right. And then he lost a couple of them. Yeah, right. So that's the kind of the level. Yeah. And then obviously it was about a year after he boxed the same lad again. It was his first England vest. Okay. So he's the only Isle of Man boxer ever to box for England, Isle of Man base boxer. There was a guy back in the 80s, Carl Mooring. I don't know if you know Carl. Okay. So he boxed for England, but he was living and boxing in Northampton. He won a national title, but he was boxing and living in Northampton. But from the Isle of Man, Manx boxing in the Isle of Man, Mathew is the only one ever to box for England.
How did you get called up? How does that process work?
The last fight I had, I beat the national champion at that weight, Daniel Kiffin from Liverpool, his name was. And then it was coming up to Christmas, I think. So in my head, I thought I was going to be like a little break over Christmas, but I think it was what happened all that quick. You got a call. You got a call up from the England squad to come down up to Newcastle for like a little, I think it was like a day or two training, and it was to pick the team for England.
Right.
So I turned up, we've done some sparring with people around my weight and my age, and then back to that man. But the next day, and I think as soon as I got off the boat, I think I had a call off John saying we'll go.
We got put forward, so you start getting noticed.
Yeah.
In your division. So Northwest region is the division that we're in. So that's Manchester, Lancashire, bits of Cheshire and Cumbria. And so there was a squad, a North of England squad for the England setup, and there was division Northwest was sending boxers up there, and Mathew got selected to go up there. So I took him up to Bailey up in the northeast, and we done a squad. We did 1 day or 2 days.
I think it was 1 day, and the next day we went down to Liverpool to just.
Yeah, we done some. Yeah, so basically have a look at them and see what it was like. So we got picked, and then that was my first. I got my first chance of international boxing. So
yeah, so it's experience as a coach, and I presume meeting other coaches as well.
Yeah, I'd obviously done the Commonwealth Games in Pune, but with the England team, it's a different setup. And it's a good experience.
Yeah, right. So I've got down in your bio here, Northwest champion a few times. What age bracket are we looking at here?
I think one was schoolboy.
Okay.
And 2 were youth. I think it was 1 each. No, yeah, so 2 youth and 1 schoolboy. That was it.
What age is it?
I think schoolboy was, 12, and then I think youth would have been 14 and 15.
Right, so that's that whole, obviously, stupid as it sounds, the Northwest region, I presume it's probably in the UK, is it? Fighting over there.
Covered mostly, it was pretty much Isle of Man, and then the whole of Manchester area. And then you had your other areas like Liverpool, Yorkshire, London, Midlands. And pretty much what was happening was at the time it was called the ABAs, the England, it was just the England Boxing Championships. And you'd fight in your area, and you could have 2-3 fights in your area just to win your area. And once you won your area, you would then, you'd fight the champion of Liverpool. And if you win that, you'd then fight the champion of East Midlands. And it would go all the way down to, I think you'd have about 4 fights to get to the finals, 3 fights to get to the finals. And if you won the finals, you'd be the champion of England.
Right, okay.
I think the furthest I got was the semi-finals.
Right.
I also I had a bit unlucky as a junior when I was 16, 17. That's when I had the elbow injury.
Right, okay.
I pulled out about 1 or 2 of them.
Right, okay. So the Commonwealth Youth in 15, what was that experience like?
That was probably the best year as a boxer that I've had. We knew. I think we were always planning for that. I think that's when I got to the semi-finals of the ABAs, and I think I had to meet a criteria to get on to the Commonwealth selection, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And it was to get into the top 8, which I got into the top 4. So
that's in the UK for your age category, right?
We went to a few tournaments in Denmark. I won gold in Denmark too.
Right.
And it was pretty much the whole year was just getting ready for the Commonwealths. I don't think I lost that year up into the Commonwealths, and then we went to a few squad meetings in Sheffield, the GB headquarters, sparring and training there. We'd be there for 2-3 days training, and I'd done that maybe once or twice. We then went to New Zealand we met up with the England team that were also in the Commonwealth Games, the boxing team. And we done a week's training out in New Zealand. I sparred New Zealand lads, or sparring the England lads.
And obviously here you kind of use the word global. When you step in the ring with these guys, are you thinking this is a different level or not?
No, because I was on that level. So I was in it felt comfortable for me. It wasn't that there was no sort of I was never, because I was beating these lads as well. So it wasn't like it was nothing new to me, and I've been doing it since I was 12, 13. So I felt in my comfortable spot. And then from the New Zealand the week in New Zealand, that was pretty much like a little small training camp, and it was to get used to the time zone, because obviously going to Samoa, time zones were all over the place, so it was to get used to that. And then we met up with the Ironman team in Auckland in New Zealand, and went to Samoa, and then that's when we obviously started fighting. And my first fight was against Samoa, who was a local lad who I beat, and then I got Scotland in the next round. That was to get the silver medal. Okay. And then the final was Northern Ireland. Right. Who picked me, I think, when I split. Right. So it was a great experience. I mean, the place was amazing as well. It was an unbelievable experience, to be honest. Right.
Yeah, I'll just go back on a little bit background to that. So organising that, the Alaman team were going out a few days before the opening ceremony, a couple of days, and we just didn't think that was right for us, boxing and the change and everything. So we fundraised for us to go to the New Zealand trip, and we're in contact with the England team, and I knew the England coach at the time. He's now on the GB setup, Paul Bennett. But so we arranged, and there was only one boxer and one coach. So we joined up with the England team, and I thought that was the best, because the thing is, I've been to 3 or 4 games before that, and you learn from your experiences. Yeah. And I was a newbie at this game when I went to Delhi or Pune. We went out with the team, went week of the thing, and you got to learn. And I just knew we've got to. And we were with the England team, and he was sparring a guy called Dalton Smith. Dalton, great guy. He was on our show last night, was he? He's top GBK, and it was great for Mathew's confidence, because he was holding his own with these guys, and we were in it, and I've got to say that they treated us as team members, didn't they? We weren't. They were a great team, and it was a great, it was a great experience, and I think we just got everything right. Yeah. We got the weight right as well, because obviously the weight management, we'd had a few issues that year trying to get, and we're talking about the weight, it's the experience of doing the weight. And then obviously I was helping them with the nutrition side of it, going out there, make sure that we went to the right places and at the right times. And everything just clicked in it. It was just, everything was just the right, and that's, the preparation side of it is massive. And
not to bring up the fact that the Northern Irish fella, is that like after the fight, is that, obviously happy with silver medal, what was the thought process post-fight?
So you're always going to be gutted to, even if no matter when you lose in it, well, to me anyway, I'm a competitive person, so if I lose in a game of chess, I'm gutted. So losing the final was gutted, but obviously I think I was the first boxer to ever win a medal from the Ironman. I think I was the only second person to ever win a medal in the Commonwealth Games. I think there was only a swimmer that done it in the Ironman. So it was a big. So it was a big achievement anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you say, I'm always going to be gutted that it wasn't the gold.
Yeah. Do you get, like talking earlier about not looking ahead at things? Do you remember experiences of, or again, was it coaches even coming into the final of, don't think about a medal, just go through your processes, do your fight, I presume, or the natural instinct, especially as a 16-year-old, you kind of...
because listen, you've got to follow the function, you've got to punch you in the face. Yeah, right. More medals, you've got to get through this fight.
Yeah. Like John said before earlier, the main thing was his performance, and he sort of drilled that into me as a young kid, maybe from about 14, 15, so 2 years before I'd done the Commonwealth Youth Games. That was already in my head. It was just focus on the performance, and if you perform well, you most likely should get the win anyway, unless something happens to the scorecards or you get a bad decision. But realistically, if you perform to your level, you'll get the win.
And nervous before it? You mentioned earlier you seem to be not more nervous, but compared to the 12-year-old.
In Samoa, because you kind of always had a bit of a buzz, because you won the quarterfinals, then you won the semi-finals. So by the time you go into finals, it just felt like almost another day as well. You get me? But obviously, you always knew what was at stake. It was the gold medal, and it would be the first gold medal, and so there was a bit of pressure on me. But
and was that head guarded or not?
That was head guard. They take the head guards off now when you're senior level, but we were still youth anyway. So just on that then, there's a lot of talk about concussions, etc. How do you manage that internally now and go, the future of your career?
something you don't think about?
I don't think about it.
Oh.
If I thought about it, I wouldn't be boxing. Because, it's like TT and stuff. If you thought about crashing and dying, you probably wouldn't. It's the last thing you're thinking about in it, is any negative stuff. You're just thinking, go in there and get the win. And and put all that stuff to you back. To be honest, it never really crossed my mind. The only time it crossed my mind is when I hear about another boxer. Okay. That is, like, I remember Chris Eubank Jr. boxed like with Nick Blackwell. I think he wasn't able to box again after it.
Yeah.
So when you do hear stories like that, they are a bit, it makes you wonder. But after a week off it, you just
you kind of have to put it
black out.
Yeah, we chatted to, I don't know whether it was Connor when we chatted to Connor Cummins, but whether it was a conversation around that where it's about, well, from the outside it looks mental, whether it's boxing, because again the thought of me getting in a ring just blows my mind just as much as going down Bray Hill at 150 mile an hour. But if you're in control of the situation, you've done everything you think right, whether it's guarding yourself, looking after yourself, you feel you're in control of the situation anyway, and therefore you can push those, what the normal punter sees as massive risks. You're managing it. And you
haven't gone off 150 mile an hour the first time you go on the bike, have you?
Yeah.
You haven't gone on a TT the first time you go on a bike. You haven't gone you have years of training before you've got to that level. And where he is now, years and years of training. He's been doing it since, you just said, 8 years of age. So it's all about levels, isn't it? About experience. And there's dangers in everything.
It's
a lot of sports.
Like
Matthew said, if you start thinking about it, that's probably the time that you
time to stop.
To stop, because it's going to nig away. You just got to get on and hope that you do everything right. And I want to come back to a lot in boxing, a lot of the injuries, and a lot of the science is pointing towards hydration and dehydration. You're talking about why do you're away in the day before. World title fights, it's mandatory to have the day before weigh-in, so they've got time to hydrate properly, because they're doing 12 rounds, tough rounds. So when Mathew, so some of these, a lot of the televised shows have got world title fights on, so they will have a pre-day weigh-in, so everyone will a day before weigh-in, so everyone will weigh in the day before. So all your undercard fights, whether you're the 4-rounder or the 6-rounder, you all weigh in at the same time. So that's but it's all down to the hydration and rehydration. And we found that the doctors have found out that a lot of it is the guys are dehydrating too much and losing too much liquid out of the body. And the body temperature rising, which causes. And
there does seem to be, again, more, fights do seem to get stopped earlier as well, which obviously ultimately is about protecting the fighter. Where perhaps 20 years ago they'd let them take more punishment.
I don't think there's a fight doesn't get stopped too early. I think it's easy.
There isn't.
No, I don't think there is.
Well, maybe compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah, looking at the TV, when you go back 50 years and 200 years and you go back, but if you're looking at the telly, and I'll look at anything that looked like it was a bit early, but I wasn't in the ring with him. I'm not looking in the kid's eyes.
Don't get me wrong. I think I was more comparing earlier to maybe 20 years ago. Don't get me wrong. Probably should have got stopped earlier 20 years ago, but they just let him crack on.
I think we've come on a lot and everything. Sports come on and every aspect, and the health and safety of our athletes has come on. Look at the concussion scenarios in rugby and football that we're bringing in. So, we're developing on, we're getting better in every area.
So just to bring your career as a coach up to 2015, because we talked about the Commonwealth, been to a couple of Commonwealths with the Isle of Man, presume a massively proud experience to take athletes.
And the tournaments that we go to boxing tournaments with boxers. So like the box cups and the boxing tournaments. If you go to a multi-sport tournament, it's great, but also it can be quite. It can take your attention away a little bit. So we've been to a few Commonwealth games before, Matthews, and I always knew that they were build ups. I'm not saying about the guys who went to the Commonwealth games, a chance of a medal or nothing, but for me as a coach, it was all pre-work to getting preparation for learning how to manage it. Like I've just said about that when we come to Samoa, I knew we wanted to go before we planned that, and that's because of the experience I've done. But it's great to the Isle of Man team to be with it, like the cyclists and the swimmers and everyone else. And the Alabama team is quite small compared to England and Scotland and Australia and Canada and big teams like that. And you become quite close. And as a team manager, I would have been a boxing coach team manager with one or two boxers. So my management side of it isn't that big. So we would help out with other people, managers, and everyone would. And the Commonwealth Games family on the Isle of Man is very close and it's very, very good. And they're all nice people and we all help each other out. So that was it's all a great experience.
Yeah. And you won Coach of the Year in 15.
Yeah, so I mean, I was on the back of Mathew winning the silver medal. And I think we're working with, and also I've been working for a few years with Isle of Man Sport. Yeah. So, and then I think they appreciate what I've been doing over the years because, obviously I think we had probably about 5 or 10 years of the most successful time in amateur boxing ever in the Isle of Man. Going back to Dominic Winrow, boxing Anthony Joshua in the ABA final, never had a boxer. When I first got involved, I don't think they'd ever had a senior boxer win a Northwest title. We had bags of them now. Forgot, lost the count.
Now.
Lost count, yeah. And then you win a quarter-final, semi-final. I never had a finalist. And Dominic Winrow went to box him. So from them early stages, and then going on to Mathew, and we had a good group with Mathew. So the great thing about the time that Mathew was doing it, we had a guy called Sam Gellin and Jamie Devine, and the three of them were all around about the same weight, and within a year or two of each other. So they all bounced off each other. So the great sparring, and that's our biggest problem in the Isle of Man, getting sparring, getting good sparring. And they were having great sparring every week. And before you knew where they were, these kids were sparring the likes of Danny Roberts and Daniel and the seniors. So at that time, we had a real good, I'd say 5-6 years of into finals every year and going away, boxing at box cups and bringing back medals. So, we had a good time.
How many boxers do you currently coach now?
So at the moment, I've started my own club, a new club I moved away from. Manchester City, I've started a club called New Horizon. And at the moment, I've got 6 registered boxers. But with COVID, we had another 4 ready to go for medicals before COVID. But COVID's put a dampener on everything. It's put the hold to everything. So we were looking to put our first tournament on last year and on the island, but everything's gone on the back burner, hasn't it? So
when did you decide I can make this as a career? I appreciate it's not a day that you particularly remember, but is that something you think about early on or after the Commonwealth? Or?
I think when I was maybe 13, 12, it was I was playing footy at the time, so it was one or the other. In my head, I was either going to be a pro boxer or a professional footy player.
Where do you play on the pitch?
Usually a winger, usually on the left wing, usually. But that was it. Was in my head. I remember I liked coming in for school. I think it was in year 9. And I was at Ballacamine, and it would be like an advisor for like what you want to do in life when you get ready for your season and stuff like that. And he'd come in and say, "What do you want to do?" And I said to myself, "I want to be a professional boxer." And I boxed for England by this time and stuff.
What did he say to you? And
he said, "I've got a plan B." Obviously, at that time, I'm young and I'm just like, no, I'm boxing, just tunnel vision and that. Now you ask me, I would say to me then, you need to have a plan B too.
Yeah.
But he sort of almost like knocked me down a bit, saying that's never going to happen.
You hear a lot of athletes
you're never going to be a
professional
boxer. He said, "How close are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm boxing England."
Smack.
Yeah, I'm boxing. I'm boxing England at the minute. I told him what I've done and that, and then he always said to me, "You need to have a plan B," which I do agree with now. But I think actually year 8 or 9, that's where I had the vision. Right. I definitely want to pursue this and go for it.
Fun of saying about football. I had a question from Sharif saying, "How did you find balancing football and boxing, and which sport did you enjoy the most?"
I don't play footy now. I've been playing since I've come back to Isle of Man. I've had a few games for St Mary's. Over the lockdown, I played a little bit. John hated me playing footy. What John would always say to me, saying, he said, "Do you box for England?" I go, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you play footy for England?" I go, "No." He said, "Well, there you go. That's the choice." Which is plain and simple, and it's right. So when I'm in Liverpool, I don't touch the ball. I'm going to just boxing. Over COVID, I have been playing a little bit of footy, and if I get injured, it's on me.
Yeah, we get a lot of kids who do a lot of sports, and it's great.
Yeah.
But it's about levels. It's about when you start moving up levels and age. So I wouldn't say...
The focus becomes...
I wouldn't say that to a 12 or 13-year-old stop playing this, stop doing that. But when you start going to titles, you go to... Imagine the organisation for the Commonwealth Games.
Well, yeah, you get cruciate damage playing football today. You'll be right.
Or you go over on your ankle for 6 weeks, you can't run for 6 weeks, that's you out. Even if it's a couple of months time. So you've got to... It's all about focus, isn't it? And the right time. And I think that you've got to make a decision, and a lot of kids want to... Mathew, at one time I used to say to him, he would have, if you'd have said to Mathew, you box, you play for Celtic and win the Scottish Cup in the afternoon and then win a world title that night, you do it. And reality, it's not going to happen, is it? So, and we all like that when we're younger, so but you've got to manage your expectations as you get a little bit older. So for me, I'm not saying I didn't play it, but I was like, do you really need it? And also, you've got to go training, so you're missing training sessions in the gym, so you've got to make a choice.
Especially at the level you're at now.
When I was young, when I was 11, 12, I'd do football and boxing, and my schedule was absolutely flat out for the week. I'd have boxing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was in the Ireland squad at the time, so we trained down St John's, so I'd go from school, get picked up, go straight down to St John's, do my footy training for an hour, get back in the car, put my boots on, my boxing boots on, get dropped off to the boxing gym, train for another hour and a half, then I'd be home at like 8 o'clock or whatever it be. I'd have my, I didn't do homework and stuff like that. Have my dinner and I'd go to bed, and that'd be literally Monday to Friday. I even think when I was fighting on a home show, if I played for Corinthians at the time, if I had a game on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, I'd box Saturday night. And then Sunday morning I'd be up playing footy.
Were you at school? Again, in hindsight, was that something, just a distraction? Get in the way.
I enjoyed school, like being there and just causing mischief.
Right.
I wasn't too bad at work. I was probably an average student. I think year 9 I got kicked out of school. It wasn't to do with fighting. I think it was just bad attitude But I did used to fight a lot in school, from like, I'm talking like year 4, right upwards, maybe even younger. And it's just, I don't know, just the way I was at the time. And it's just the way, I was always brought up, I never start a fight or cause fights. I'm not into fighting, like outside the ring, especially now. I just totally walk away from it. But as a young kid, I was always one of them where I just felt like I always had to protect myself, and that's the way we brought up. Always just stand by yourself. But year 9, I started to realise that it was all just not going to get you anywhere. And I totally settled down, and my head was screwed, and I was back in school. I was doing well in lessons. I'd done well in my GCSEs. I went on to do A levels, and I think I lasted about 6 months, and I just knew straight away that it wasn't for me. I needed to be a bit more active, and I went on from there.
Do you find, because boxing is often kids that perhaps are not always on the straight and narrow, should we say? It's common. I don't think that's an uncommon statement. Do you then find that you see the discipline that boxing brings to them, and again, I shouldn't use the word improvement, but how that helps them?
Yeah, I think there's evidence towards that. But what I've always liked it all, I've always said it all. You get kids come down the gym. They come down because they probably are causing a bit of trouble in school, and they get in straight out. And you also get the kids who are getting bullied or a bit timid, and they get cut down to. And what I've always said, I can't teach anyone to fight. But I can teach them how to box. And if that then brings them self-confidence, self-awareness, it brings them values, that's what I'm there to teach them how to box, and anything else any byproduct is a good byproduct. So, but for me personally, I take massive pride out of getting them timid kids to stand up for themselves and be confident, and for me, because the little scrap, you know, it's the other way around. You try to calm them down and try them to get them disciplined, so it's not a scrap, it's an actual boxing match. But for me personally, you get the Timgers, and they'll probably never be world champions. No,
which builds a self-esteem, etc.
And you know what? I can't go out. I go to Jack's to watch the football, and the kids are coming up to me saying, "All right, John, the kids." I forget. I'm terrible with names because I've had hundreds of kids come through.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, no,
isn't that great?
Yeah,
and you know, we're not talking about world champions or they're just kids who have 4 or 5 fights, and we pay them a bit of time, a bit of attention, and they're doing all right. And they've got a job and they're married, and they've got a house, and it's good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
They're not just good boxers; they're good human beings. They're good people.
I think boxing teaches you a lot more than not just boxing. You know, dedication and stuff
like values.
Yeah, and you've got to, like, if you want something, like, you do have to work hard for it, whether it be sports, maybe just what in university, whatever it may be, a job. You do. I think going to, and it's not just boxing. I think sport in general. If you do get your kids into sport at a young age, they always have that competitive side, and they always know that you do have to work hard for stuff if you want it, and you have to dedicate stuff, and you've got to sacrifice stuff too. Willing to get something in the future, and I think, and that's why I would always say, when I become a parent when I'm older, it's the first thing I would get kids into a sport, whether it be, I don't think I get my kids into boxing, but they'll definitely get into a sport where it'll teach them other values, and then actual sport will teach them stuff out of life.
Why wouldn't you get them into boxing?
It can be hard, it can be lonely as well, a very lonely sport, and it's like Friday and Saturday nights, and your mates are all out drinking and stuff. I've never been a fan of it anyway. I'm not a massive fan, but I'd happily go out.
Fan of what? Going out
and drinking and stuff. It's not my scene, but you can feel lonely and stuff. It's always it's good to have a crowd around you that are on the same vision, whether it be the same sport or not. But someone that's still got goals in their head where they want to go and achieve something. And especially on the Isle of Man, most of my mates have just been like, I mean, they won't care if I say it. They know what they're like. They just like to go out on a Friday night, Saturday night. Most people do, and there's nothing wrong with it. But just because of my sport, I can't do it. And it's simple as that. And you can feel left out, and you can be a bit forgotten about as well sometimes. But it's just part and parcel of what comes with the sport. And obviously, the pain and stuff that comes with it, when you are sat there and you can't drink, you've got a bottle of water in front of you, you can't drink it, or you can't eat that cake that's in front of you, and it's just a very hard sport. I mean, I'd never tell anyone not to do it. I'd 100% tell every kid to get into it, but my own kid, I think as well, because of the level I've been at, like with John saying, for someone to come down just to get a better self-esteem, a better confidence, I honestly don't think there's a better sport for it. I think it can teach you so much and get your confidence up so much that I would advise every kid to try it, to give it a go. But when it gets to a high level, you'll hear a lot of boxers say it themselves. They're not letting that kid.
That's what crossed my mind. Was you hear a lot of boxers saying that when they have a family. So we were chatting before we came on. Your nickname.
Yeah.
So what's the story to that?
Paul Molinari, his name was. The fight that I watched him in, he actually got beat. He got beat by a guy called Miguel Cotto. He was a very good fighter, and he had hair. His hair was like the Predator.
Right.
His hair, and obviously you're not going to miss that. He had to get his hair cut in the 8th round. They just got no decision. And started cutting his hair. But even though he lost that fight, he lost against one of the best in the world, and he was flashy. I just like the style. And then that's where I got the name from, and it's kept.
Is it on the front of the shorts?
It is, in the sparkle.
And the match has done it, Magic Mathew.
Yeah, no, it works good. Yeah, it works good. So a couple of other kind of fire through some quick stuff. I presume under training, certainly from a coach side as well, under trained. And I heard Tyson Fury talking about he preferred to come into a fight under trained than overtrained, because you get that kind of lead leg feeling after a few rounds. So is that something you'd attest to? That
I don't know. As a coach, you try and get a spot on, don't you?
Yeah.
But you don't always achieve it all the time for whatever reason. So
you then have to balance it. But you prefer to be slightly undertrained.
I think the overtraining is probably a sign of a bad program or something's going wrong with the program, you won't train. Like, for instance, a fight gets called off for a week or two because he's got a cold or an injury, and it's a big fight, it'll probably reschedule for a week or two. So, but the undertraining, I can see where he's coming from, but as a coach, you're always
you're
looking for the perfection. You're looking to try and get your time, get everything right, get the timing right, get everything right. So.
COVID, pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's put a damper on everything. The lucky thing is everyone's in the same boat, more or less. Obviously, in the world of boxing, your likes of your BT Sports and Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn on Sky, and even Channel 5. They are getting their lads out, but I'm not at that stage just yet. So I'm not able to get out on the smaller shows. It's just a no-go at the minute. I've had chats from my manager and stuff, and they are looking. They have been trying to do stuff, but it's just sort of they always hit a brick wall at some stage when you are trying to put shows on.
And that way you just mentioned there, Eddie Hearn, is that the next kind of step that you're aiming for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of getting ready for the likes of them big fights. That I'm hoping maybe the back end of next year or maybe 2023. We're in now, So 2020, back end of 2022 and 2023, I'll be looking at stepping up on it, whether it be Matchroom or Frank Warren. But I'll be 100%. I'd be ready for a title fight.
It's TV, and you saw about TV.
Yeah.
Not per se but in UK they're the big ones who've got TV, but it's TV exposure, that's massive.
Yeah.
You know, the small hole boxing where he's doing it now, and you're learning your trade, great, but once you get that chance to highlight your skills on TV, that's when you're stepping up into, obviously everything gets better, the money gets better, the opportunities get better, but he's just got to get ready for that and be ready for it.
We were talking about, when we were coming up, we were talking about this, and it was like, it's all timing and getting the fights at the right time and stuff, but sometimes there is going to be a time when you might have to take an opportunity where you don't know if you are ready or not, but it's a risk you've got to take, and I think everyone in their career gets to a point like that, and it's like it's either now or never. But I'm 100% sure that when that does come, I'll be ready.
So those 5 fights, and I appreciate you might not want to talk about particular numbers, but did you get paid for fighting?
Yeah,
there's a purse at the end of it.
Yeah,
did you get paid for turning up, or is it just?
I wouldn't be going if there was no money at the end of it.
Right. Okay.
But you get paid, and you do get paid a certain amount. You get paid an amount anyway.
Right, appearance fee you call it.
But you can get a percentage of the tickets and stuff.
You get paid for the rounds as well. So they have a set fee for a 4 round, a 6 round, 8 rounders. They have set fees as well. You can't go below that. So it's like a living wage category. So you have that, but also it's a big thing is selling tickets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Danny and Peter talked about that when they were in. So I'm going to back in the corner with the question here, because if you didn't get paid for boxing at all, would you be doing it? Which then backs you into the corner to make you sound like you're only doing it for money, which obviously isn't the case because you love the sport.
Because I'm older, no. Because I know if you're not going to get paid for it, there's no point. You're just getting hit for no reason. But when you're an amateur, you don't get paid for it. You're just doing it just because you love it. But when I was amateur, I done it because I loved it, but I also seen a vision where I could go and I know where it could lead to. And it all leads to becoming a world champion, having lots of money where you can just sit down when you're retired. You can sit down and just relax and look back at what you've done. But it's not money's not everything.
No.
But it helps you out, especially when you're older and you get families when you're older and you have to pay bills and stuff. You need it, don't you? You just can't do it.
So you mentioned manager there. So what typically a manager, that would be someone from the what's the word, from the people arranging your fights, what are they called, promoters. So they're given to you, are they, from that as part of that package? So
my manager is my promoter too, pretty much.
Okay.
It's VIP Promotions, and Steve Wood is my manager, and he runs.
So he sorts fights out. Obviously talk to John about the type of fight.
So I don't train Matthew. So I'm Matthew's amateur coach.
Right. Okay.
So I'm an amateur coach. I'm not involved in professional game. So Matthew has moved to the UK, but he's coached. So while he's back on the Isle of Man because of COVID, he's training with us, and in our gym, and he's just checking over really. But so I'm not involved in Matthew's career at the moment.
the lad who trained me in my fights in Liverpool was called Tommy Smith.
Right.
We were based in a club called Salisbury.
Okay.
In Liverpool. It's a well decorated club as an amateur. But they would have a talk. So pretty much, Steve Wood pays someone to match the fights.
Okay.
That matchmaker would then speak to my coach, and
Okay.
realistically, I do find out who the opponents are, of course, but I do tell I'm not really fussed who they are, because that's why they're my team. They're there to get the right fights at the right time, especially at this time when I'm just learning. So I just get myself prepared. When I find out who the opponent is, I watch the fights and we'll train and get ready for them.
Yeah.
But mainly, it would be your coach and the matchmaker that would be doing the speaking.
In arranging.
To arrange the opponent. And the likes of Steve Wood, who would be the manager, he's sort of just he's putting shows all over the Northwest mainly. And he's making sure everything's running smoothly, so people are getting match fights, people the tickets, the venues, doctors, judges. He's doing all that side of the stuff.
Yeah, okay. And in the corner, who's in the corner with you then?
So
is that they yours or the VIPs?
No, you have your own manager, you have your own coaches and stuff. And you get your so I've actually at the minute I've currently just left the Salisbury.
Okay.
Well, and when I go back to Liverpool, once COVID's over, I'm going to be looking for a new gym and a new coach. But at the time, Tommy Smith, who I'm still in contact with, I'm still all friends with them all, he was my main coach. Then I had Paul Edwards, who won a British title as a professional, but he was like flyweight, right at the bottom, in weight divisions. He was like an assistant coach, and then I had a Cutman, and he'd also done my wraps. Chris Bauer, his name was. So they'd be my three in the corner.
Right. So, and you mentioned again before we came on now, you're looking at just, I suppose, that team around you. Always goes back to a discussion we had with Rich Sill, who does in the mind game, and he talks about. I always remember his comment when he mentioned about there's no such thing as an individual sport, because the rallies you have a team around you, and so you mentioned those guys there, and also you're looking now at diet, nutrition, sports condition, and separate coaches for that. And again, I assume ultimately as you're moving up through the levels, it's just building that team around you. Yeah. Those little 1%, 2% that you need in each part of the game, just improving them.
Yeah, that's all it is. See, your coach is like, he's head of it all. So he should be in conversation with the strength, with the diet. He needs to know everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And so then he can also plan out his program and make sure everything's running smoothly. So he's got to be on top of everything, and that's why you pay him as well. And obviously you have to do your own part. But for a boxer, what most people like to do, what most coaches like to do, is take everything off the boxer, take all the other stress off him, so they can just literally just focus on turning up and training.
Yeah.
And then everyone else. So you've got your massages and stuff, your recovery sessions, your dietitian, the stuff you just stated before. He's going to be pretty much making sure that's all ready for you. So you've done your sparring, go eat. This is what you're eating. You've got all wrote down. Go back to your apartment. You're eating that. Then after that, you're going down to do your mat. You're getting a massage.
Okay.
That's you done for the day.
Yeah, right.
Next day, be up here at 6 a.m. doing this running.
Yeah.
And it sort of that's how it works. So your coach is in charge of your whole training camp, and he's got to be on the ball.
So just, I want to go back to a question you were asking before, mate, about the sort of medium-term, long-term goals. But just a quick question about, and again, the level you're moving through. You see some fighters moving around weight divisions now. They seem to me, as an observer, weight divisions are quite narrow in the weight category. Is that generally considered a hard thing to do in at the position you're at your career? Is that something you just find a division and go, I'm comfortable here, and work through that? And if you end up hitting a wall where perhaps you get beaten a few times, it might be then you step back and go, do I need to move up or down? Or how was that?
Yeah, well, you generally will most likely move up, especially me for my age, because I'm 22, my body is still going to develop.
Right.
As training goes on as well, and I might, become stronger and put on more muscle or whatever. But I would say, in what you're saying there, if you lose a few fights,
just an example,
yeah, you'd probably be thinking maybe I'm not making the weight right, or maybe I'm not making the weight comfortable where I need to move up the weight, and I might be less fatigued or whatever. So again, that's probably a combo that you'd have with yourself and your coach.
Yeah.
And making sure that all your preparation is right and you are doing the diet right. And what I stated earlier on, with one diet might work better than the other. This is why like different nutritionists work better with a certain boxer. And the boxer should really know how the body works, especially as they get further down on their career. They know what will work for them and what doesn't work for them. But moving up in weights, like I'm 64 kilos, which is super lightweight. Welterweight would be the next weight up, which would be 66 kilos.
Right.
So it's only 2 kilos. There's not a lot in it, which I know in the future I'm going to be going to that one.
Right.
It's going to be bound to happen.
Right.
But I know boxers that have gone from 64 to 71, and that's middleweight.
Right.
Which is a fairly big jump. But what you've got to remember as well is some boxers are going from 81 down to 71. So you're coming up from 64 to 71 and down to 81. So they're naturally going to be the bigger person, and it could either favour them or it could go into your favour because you don't know if they're killing themselves and they're going to feel like what you felt like down at that lower weight. But you never know what's going on in each other training camps. You just got to turn up and do your thing basically. And if they're killing themselves, you'll find that out on the night. Yeah.
So that leads in then the question I was going to ask about, and you touched on it there, Matt, about it's called the TV matches in 18 months. I mean, do you believe you'll be world champion at some point? Is that something?
I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think I could go all the way. And I know it is going to be extremely hard, but I think I've got the skills. I think I've also got the will to learn as well. But I believe I can go as far as I want in the sport as long as I make sure I put 100% into it. See, if you put 100% into it, you don't do it all. And that's what I'm showing that already. I've sacrificed a lot. I've left my family, my house. I sacrificed a lot to do what I'm doing. And I believe if I keep going the way I'm doing, I keep the way I'm learning, the way I'm progressing in my career so far, and the sparring that I've been down, I've sparred. I know sparring is completely different fighting, but I get called up to spar world champions now. Right. So, and I hold my own with them, and we have good spars, and they ask me back, and you always know you've done well if they ask you back. Yeah, right. If they don't ask you back, they're probably thinking they're getting nothing out of you. But I've been down and I've sparred many different ones as well. And if I can hold myself, and like I was saying before, I know it is a spar and it's totally different from a fight, but if I can hold myself now at 22, maybe in 5-6 years time, I'll be the one calling the younger lad down and getting me ready for it. Do you know what I mean? So I 100% believe I can go all the way in the sport.
And John, I mean, you're obviously not going to say no, but when you look at people coming through the sport and the youth and then getting into the ranks, then you must see the ones that you believe can go to that. Again, I see cyclists. I've cycled all my life, and I'm certainly no coach, but you can see talent in people because you've just been around the sport. And I assume that's the case. And certainly looking at Matty, that's something you see.
You can. The talents will only get you so far on it. So it's hard work, like Mathew just said. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity as well. As you get older, you realise, and listening to Mathew, I've seen Mathew for a while, and obviously he's been in the gym last week or two. He's matured a lot. Like, it's nice to listen to him talk. As I remember when he was a 12 and 13, 14-year-old, wanted to play for Celtic in the morning, title at night. So it's great to listen to Mathew and I'm being mature about it. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about that maturity and learning.
It does seem that, again, obviously there's 100 other things you've got to have, but that mental part of boxing does seem, I'm sure it is in most elite sports, but it does seem to be. You'll speak to any, you listen to every boxer, and it's right, obviously, that focus, drive, I can do this. You lose a fight, you come back, you go again. It seems to be just instilled, I guess, from youth of coaching that's.
You've got to believe you can do it. 100%.
I think that's in. I think that's in you. I've coached.
I tend to agree.
And you cycle. Coaches coach lots of kids, and there's one Cavendish, or there's one Kinnick in it. So that's in them. Like, you know, they got that in them, and it's just you've still got to nurture it. You've got to bring it out of them and put it in the right direction. But I think that will to win, that determination, that's installed in them from. You've got that from the way go.
So at this moment, if we weren't in COVID and you were back in the UK training, would you be working as well?
Yeah, I have a part-time job. I look after autistic people.
Right, okay.
It's only like 1 or 2 shifts a week. It's through another boxer actually in the same gym as me who does it too.
Okay.
But it's a good job. It's good on your CV. I enjoy it as well.
Is that in a school, in a community hall after?
No,
How does that work?
It's just like it's like government funded sort of, and it's just one lad that I look after, the same lads. And so it's not like you go to like a home or like a school. It's not like the loads of people. It's just you, one lad, and a small little team, and there's usually 2 of you on for the day.
What kind of thing are you doing? Just looking after him, type of thing.
It's literally just being there. It's just making sure that he's safe, cooking his food. And there's not much to it. It is quite a simple job, an easy job, but you get an enjoyment out of it knowing you are doing well. You see the parents, and the parents always thank you for the work you're doing. You go out for little walks, you take them out on little activities. So, like I said, there's not much to it, but it's
satisfying, I'd imagine. And I presume, again, as you move through your career, because again, it's natural. One of probably the most important things, I guess, is rest as much as it is to train. It's that balance of you need to kind of maybe work to get a little bit of finances as well, but you also need to rest. So it's that constant battle.
With this job, it is good in terms of boxing because it's not like you're going out like
it's not on a building site.
You're going out clashing. It's you could go to train in the morning and you could go to your work and it'll be a chill that day. It'll be a recovery day for you. So it's good because you're getting obviously paid for it as well.
And a big thing as well for young professionals like Mathew is sponsorship. You know, sponsorship is key, and I'm sure Mathew will talk about it. He's looking for sponsors now to help him. So he's got to strengthen conditioning to pay for and stuff like that. Or okay at our gym at the minute, but you know, when he gets back into full training, you know, you need sponsorship. When you're this stage of your career, when you're still learning, you know, sponsorship.
Do you want to talk a bit about that now? Do you have sponsors? Who are they?
I've had a lad called Derek Melville. He's sponsored me since I was amateur as well. He's helped me out. He's got Melville Joinery, a firm in Scotland. Also, my dad's helped me out, Rennie roofing. Joe Quinn, who's based over in Jersey, and MSN scaffolding. But pretty much how the sponsor works is obviously you get exposure over your social media pages, and I could have 5,000, 10,000 people watching me on not on YouTube, sorry, on the VIP live streams when I am fighting on the night. And I get a lot of viewings on my Instagram, Facebook and stuff as well. And chats like this and radio chats, and I have chats on YouTube on interviews with VIP. Even I'm in the Merseyside papers and stuff. So you do get a lot of exposure, but the sponsorship helps me out because I can focus on training rather than working, and it'll pay for you. It pays for like your training, your travel expenses, pretty much the work my job just covers my bills. Apart from that, you just you're living off your sponsors to help you get by with your strength, the dietitian, the food to buy, the supplements, your training gear, and obviously using your training gear, like your gloves you wear. You don't want a cheap pair of gloves. You use them every single day. So you want to have the best quality for your safety as well. So you're not. When I get this shit,
your hands are the tools of the trade, aren't they? You break your hands.
That's it. So you want to have the good gear and your head guard when you're doing 10, 12 rounds sparring. You want to have a good head guard. You're only walking out with like a wooden head guard on or something crazy like that, which some of them are like, by the way. So it all helps, and it's small amounts, big amounts, whatever amounts anyone can ever help me with.
So just reach out through your social media channels, or probably
social media.
So I assume again, I suppose it's another thought of that when you want to focus on career and on training, etc. Rather, you've got to keep social media presence. You've got to. I'm sure you prefer to be sat at home now, lying in bed and relaxing than chat here. But again, that's I suppose just it's part of the job, isn't it?
A lot of people ask me this about would you post? Because I think if I wasn't boxing or anything, I'd probably be a private quiet guy, and I wouldn't really post a lot, but you need to keep updated, you need to let everyone know what you're doing, you need to keep on top of it. So, and the best way to do that is on social media. It's free advertisement pretty much. So I have Facebook accounts, I have Instagram accounts, and I always put a post up just to let everyone know, and then I thank people that help me out. And just to keep everyone updated with what I'm doing, because especially at a time like this when people are thinking, I wonder if Matty still boxing, I wonder what Matty's doing, and I'm constantly training behind the scenes all the time, but every all of a sudden I'll put a post up and let them know that. And as well, when you come to fight and you're trying to get rid of your tickets and stuff, you're trying to get your name out there, I'm probably post once or twice a week on Instagram and stuff to just keep everyone just a reminder pretty much.
It's a balance, isn't it? Because ultimately you just want to be focusing on what you want to be doing. But
and that's another part of it that we don't realise. And Matthew's not one out there. You see guys in boxing who got big mouths, but they get big fights because they got big mouths. Matthew's not one of them kids, you know what I mean? It is probably harder for them. So you've got to do it. It's the way it is now. But he's not one of them kind of like. He'd rather just get on with it, do the business in the ring. I know what he's like. He's that kind of kid, but you've got to sell yourself up. You've got to.
I'm thinking about making a YouTube channel now.
Oh right, okay.
I'm calling out YouTube fighters to see if that'll work.
Absolutely, Joe. I watched one last week, and I've got novices in the gym who beat them up, but they're getting big money.
It's the generation we're in now, though, isn't it? I mean, all the kids and everyone watching YouTube and they know all these people. So I would say fair play for them. I mean, if I could do it, I would do it. But it's just sometimes it's a bit heartbreaking when you're trained your whole life, and it's just some YouTuber comes along or whoever it may be, they never put a pair of gloves on, and they're fighting Conor McGregor.
For world champions, they're getting 25 grand for a world title fight.
I mean, when I suppose reality TV started 15 years ago, that was the same. It was like a shortcut to getting famous, wasn't it? It's the same process, just a shortcut to.
You Love Island.
I never watched that, but I'll let you assume that's the case. So a couple of other just quick questions. You mentioned you got a gym at the moment. People that want to come down, start getting involved.
So New Horizon Boxing Club. We're on Palace Road where the Manx ABC used to be, and they've moved now. So we've taken over their gym, which is a great little gym for us. We're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 6:30, junior start, so junior we start from the age of 9 up until like 15, 16, they'll be in the junior category. They train for an hour, seniors train for an hour and a half. So we've got, I say, with COVID, it's put us back, our active boxers, it's put them back a little bit, but we're just taking over with it. And we've got a lot of key fitters in, and we probably have about 15 people in the sessions. And we've also just started the Filler and the Villa have started a team up from Peel.
Okay.
They've asked to use our gym on the Tuesdays and Thursday, and they do a Saturday morning session. So they're using the gym when we're not doing our sessions. So there's me, myself, I'm the head coach, secretary of the club, and I've got Christian Baruski. I don't know if you know Christian boxed 2 Commonwealth games for the Alemanni. Is at the 180 odd fights. He's obviously originally from Poland, and a great coach. Gives experience. You just can't buy that experience. It's unbelievable. Boxing international level, boxing Russians and Ukrainians and stuff like that. So Christian's coaching with me. So it's we're going right.
So again, you'd say if the gym's open, it's whether you're just coming down, you want to help them build some self-esteem and some awareness to someone who wants to.
Obviously we're a boxing gym, so we're trying to get kids to box amateur. We're amateur boxing club. Well, we do have key fitters come down, and we have it's cheap. It's £3 a session. Just come down, pay you £3 and train. So we're always we're looking to try and nurture the next Mathew, Rennie. But within that, we get loads of guys just come to use the gym and get fit and learn a little bit.
You mentioned there the Thriller in the thingy. I was going to ask because I think when we were chatting to Peter and Danny, I don't think Peter was a massive fan of the white collar boxing and that kind of. So, what's your views on it?
I'm not a massive fan, but it is what it is. Like Mathew just said, it's popular, it's for charity, and they're doing it. Like so, I know Peter's They train the Douglas team there, and they do it on their off night. So, for instance, our gym's 3 nights a week, so it's empty.
Yeah.
You know, a few nights a week. So if they want to rent out and use the gym, that's fine. So it's for me personally, no, it's not. It's not what I'm all about. I'm all about the amateur game, amateur boxing, bringing kids through. But it's there and it's doing well, and it's good causes, raise a lot of money for charity. So you know, it's not going away, is it?
No. And do you get drug tested at all the 5 fights you've had, or amateur level?
I've been drug tested as an amateur. You get drug tested as a pro too, but when you get at a high level, that's more regular. You get drug tested a lot through camp and stuff. But at the minute, for me, the only time I get drug tested is when I get my medical done, which is once a year.
Right. To keep your license, you have to get.
You have to get medical every year. You get brain scan.
Okay, interesting. Right.
Wee and a urine test and a blood test.
Right.
And also they do. I think it's just a check to see like in that year nothing's happened to you. You haven't broken any bones or anything like that. But that's once a year. Again, that's nothing that's it's £600 for that.
Right.
And that's another thing where sponsorship really helps out with getting your medical done. And you've got to pay your license a year too, which is about £150 a year too. So all the sponsor money goes towards all this, and it helps out massively.
Yeah. You got some questions there? I just see them popping up.
Yeah, got one each for you. So John, both from Emma. How do you deal with the psychology of boxing? So in terms of building these close relationships with these guys coming through, and then presumably through their fights, when they win, when they lose, you know, the boxers themselves have their own battles to do, but as a coach, you brought them up, I guess. How do you deal with it all? Yeah,
well, I've never been trained in psychology, so I think it's just natural. I'm just me. I try to be level-headed. I try to be, you know, not forget, like we said before, about forget about the results, especially in amateur. Let's concentrate on the performance. And I think if I started kicking off about the results, it would transpire to him. Yeah. So I just try to be level-headed. I think the boxers would have to tell you about that. What I'm like, I think I'm fair but firm, I would say. But
firm and fair. But as well, that I've noticed is like they teach you stuff. So I don't know. It's a hard one to describe. You sort of have to be there to experience it. But like you know, I know what's right and wrong when I'm in the gym with John, and that's what I was talking about before. With you learn more than just boxing. You learn
life skills,
yeah. And even like I know I shouldn't be doing this, so I just turn my head to it, walk the other way, or don't go down there. I know what's happening. I can see the future already. What's happening,
okay.
And I know it's not like how could boxing put that into you, and how could people like John and other boxing coaches put that into you, but they do. And you don't know they do, but they do as you get older. And they teach you other stuff.
Discipline seems to be a big, from whether it's your diet or whatever to this guy, because you are a boxer, wants to square up to you in the pub because he thinks he can, and it's that ability that discipline to go and walk away. Just as much, I suppose, when you're in the ring fighting, it's discipline about, you know. Sometimes you don't want to rush in, I guess. There's times when you just want, you mentioned about being gassed in the other fight, where perhaps, again, over time, more and more discipline will be like, this isn't the opportunity to try and finish this. Just learning those. Yeah, so when instinct is like...
There's a lot of different things you're talking about there. So standing in the chippy on a Friday night, everyone's drunk or being in a bar, you just got, like Mathew just alluded to there, about seeing what the eventuality of the situation and trying steering clear from situations, and it's quite hard, and we don't always achieve that. We try to, but you know we've all been there. But the discipline in boxing, I think it comes through the training. I think the training instills that into you, and that's why we were talking before about the training for 8 and 9-year-olds is different than the training if they're only coming, they're only little kids, they're not going to be doing the full rounds, they're not going to be disciplined. So I think in years of training, so like we got back to it, he's been coming to the gym since 8, 9 years of age, so that discipline is instilled over the years.
I remember in fights where you'd get caught with like a little shot, and you shouldn't have got, you know yourself, you shouldn't have got caught with, and the first thing that comes to mind is you want to get them back.
Yeah, I bet.
But then it's like you're not going to jump in the pool and not get wet. So if you're going to jump in the ring, you're going to get hit at some point.
Yeah.
So you just got to accept that you are going to get hit, and the sooner you accept that, the calmer you'll be. You just take on. All right, you got hit, reset, go again.
Yeah,
sort of like in life, you hit a brick wall in life, reset yourself, go again.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and the other one for you, Matt, is who's your biggest inspiration in boxing?
It's hard question.
While you're thinking about that, what's your favourite ever boxing match, John?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that question now.
All right.
There's loads. Yeah. So Diego Corrales and Castillo's up and down, ding dong. I think Hagler hands, 3 rounds, absolute mayhem. Some great fights. So I'd say probably the Hagler hands one. It was only lasted 3 rounds, but it was absolute mayhem.
They make it happen.
The Diego Corrales. I think it was.
My favourite was Gatting Wars.
Right, okay. I'm sure I remember.
And there's a 9th round in that, and it's just.
Yeah, I think they had a trilogy. Absolute battles, two scrappers just standing toe, knocking lumps out of each other.
To the question though, I don't think I've ever actually looked up to someone and thought I want to be like him.
Right.
I think I've always sort of, in terms of styles, I've always sort of looked at different boxers and thought I like a bit of that, I'll take a bit of that, I like a bit of that. And then mainly my dad's always sort of not inspired me, but just brought me the way I am up. And I've always looked at the way he's been in terms of he's just a normal fella that goes out to work 8 in the morning, back at 5. Worked since he was 14, very old school, and done it all just to make sure we have a roof over our heads and dinner on our table. Very old school person. And it's people like that think that it's a hard life. I mean, everyone knows what it's like getting up. I go to the gym, train, go home, chill, go back to the gym, train, and it is hard, but I'll come here and I'll do a day's work with my dad, and I'll be crying at the end of the day about my hands are sore, and he'll be shouting down saying, "I'll shut up and get back up when that roof." But I've always, with boxing, I've never really inspired by someone's story.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Really, I've always looked at my dad and thought, he's going through this so I can box.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I need to make sure I do this to give back to him. And he only wants a pint at the end. But when I come watch out, he only wants a pint.
Oh, right, okay.
So that won't be too bad. That'll be a cheap night for me.
Yeah, right. That's good. And just one other question I have. Is there times when you and obviously I'll never know, thankfully. Is there times, certainly so far in your career, when you've got hit and thought, F me, that was harder than I thought it would be?
Probably every time.
Yeah. I've never felt in a fight, I've never felt too much. I don't know, maybe it's because of the adrenaline or whatever. But the way I box, my style of my boxing, I don't really get hit flush. I'm not saying I don't get hit, everyone gets hit. But I sort of, they glance me and I sort of roll them, I kind of roll them off me. So they catch me, but they don't pay much effect to me. In sparring, I've been hit with a few when I switched off in sparring.
Okay.
I've been hit with a few body shots, and they're the ones that you've got to sort of really. I mean, headshots. You can sort of you can take a headshot, you can absorb it. You know what I mean? You get used to.
No, I don't. But yeah, go on.
From a boxing point of view, you can sort of absorb some power, but you get hit to the body, and your breath goes.
Right.
It might only take you 10 seconds to recover. But in that time, it feels like 10 minutes,
right?
And you're trying to get your breath back, and you're trying to not show anything. Keep that poker face and say you haven't hurt me here. Maybe pull your tongue out or something to put them off, like you don't hurt me. But really, you
probably a sign. Yeah. And I presume when you're fighting, you're looking at the other boxer, you to try and see if you hurt them. Is that a thought process in your head?
Yeah. if you catch them a big shot, you sort of glance at them, and you know if you've catch these,
just as much as they might know if they've caught you.
And I've caught people a few shots, and like I was saying, you know as well if they try and do a trick and they try and poke the tongue out, but all that just shows is, I've caught you then.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're just trying to say, that didn't hurt me, but really
the fact it did. Yeah.
But you definitely glance up and say, have I got you there? And you'll know, because you'll see a little wobble on the feet. If you hit them in the body, you'll see a little, they'll drop their elbow. You might even, you hear a lot when you're up and close. You won't obviously outside in the ring.
Interesting.
But when you're in with them and you're in a short distance, you can't, especially the body shot, and you'll hear a little wheezy noise or something.
All right.
You know, I've got you here.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. Well, thanks for coming in. I don't know if there's any more down there. Thanks for coming in. It's been really interesting.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
No, pleasure. Obviously, good luck. Hopefully, COVID naps off sooner rather than late, and you get back to fighting.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll obviously keep an
for
eye.
a year or so, or whenever I'm back up boxing, I can get back in.
Yeah,
that'd
that'd be wonderful. Yeah, anytime for sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming in, and congratulations on all the work you've done and helping cut grassroots. Because again, when Matt and I started the podcast, it was very much about talking to grassroots people that do so much work in sport that's in many ways unnoticed.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of local people, Matt included, that are grateful for all the work you do at that grassroots level.
Yeah, you do it all for the likes of that. Like, you know, you get a kid like that, goes and wins a medal at the Commonwealth Games, and all the hard work that you've done has paid off.
Yeah, no, for sure. So no, thanks guys for coming in.
Thank you.
Matty, do you want to check us out?
Yeah, so wherever you're listening or watching today, please like, share, subscribe, and leave those 5-star reviews, pretty please. Social media, Facebook with the M-Word Podcast, Twitter, M-Word Podcast #1, and on Instagram, the M-Word ION.
Yeah, I'm writing down.
Yeah, no.
Cheating. Cheat sheet. He says with these things. It's word out. Thanks for letting us into your sexy ears. It's word out from Mon.
And word out from Matt.